He's here.
Thank you. Closing opposition, are you here?
What is he?
Closing opposition is here.
Great, thank you. I can see Sistiana. That's good. Members of the other panel, are you all here?
Okay, the chair for panel B. My name is
Yeah,
Ken,
please check
and I'm
for your
present.
panel. Can you
Okay,
cross-check your panel presence here?
okay, I can see Williams on the call, and I can see Sejaki on the call. So yeah, they're both present.
Okay, great, thank you. Hello everyone. Housekeeping rules. You know what? Kenneth, your chair, right? For your panel.
Yeah, I am.
Do you want to go ahead and share this now?
Okay, if you want to just pass it on to me, then I don't have a problem with it.
Yeah, sure, go ahead.
Okay, hi guys, my name is Ken. I'll be the chair for this round. Have you confirmed if your panelists are present? That's the panelists on panel A. If they are present, then we might
Yeah,
just go
just me
ahead.
and Sistiana, we're all good. So you can start from
Okay,
PM.
okay, all good. So you guys should please type your speaking orders in the chat space so that we can use it for filling of ballots, just in case we forget it. Because even if we say it verbally, we might still forget it at the end of deliberation because this is a closed round. Okay, the standard rules, everybody knows it. So Prime Minister, whenever you're ready, as Prime Minister is preparing to give his speech, please everybody drop your speaking order in the chat space. Thank you.
Can I be heard?
Yeah, you're quite audible.
Okay, so I'm going to be the Prime Minister of this debate. Before that, James, can you please check DM in the meantime? So I'll be taking my points of information within the 5th minute. Please don't badger me anytime before that. Okay, so assuming that I'm still audible. Give me a second. Okay, I'm going to be starting my speech in 3, 2, 1. In the United States of America, startups create nearly 3 million jobs annually, and they generate nearly 50% of new innovations within the market. What does this imply to this debate? This implies that there is a net benefit that we are able to accrue from them, and due to the nature of glorification, we better able get this benefit. We are going to show you 2 specific things within this debate. 1, why the glorification leads to benefits, but also secondly, why it improves economies within the long run. 3 key pieces of framing within this debate. Firstly, what is startup culture? 2 things here. 1, it looks like people opening up businesses and small companies. It looks like individuals being able to partner with each other, being able to come up with different ideas to start businesses. It looks like having small SMEs coming up and SMEs trying to venture within the market. Secondly, it looks like individuals acquiring information. It looks like individuals doing groundwork, research, involving themselves into different projects and different courses that they can learn startup culture so that they can be able to accrue the benefits. In most circumstances, you see young individuals trying to venture within these aspects and whatnot. Secondly, what does the glorification look like and how does it manifest like within the society? 3 key things. 1, it looks like society admiring, praising, and encouraging individuals to join startup culture. It looks like the schools, it looks like news, it manifests within media, trying to show startup culture as something that is good within the society and something that is good for individuals to be able to progress themselves. Secondly, it looks like an increase in the desire and the incentive to start up businesses by different individuals within the society. How does this then happen? It looks like 2 things. 1, it looks like rich individuals who have money, banks, or it looks like different learning agencies coming up and giving individuals money to start up small businesses in order to participate within the startup culture. But also secondly, it looks like an increase of grants and shows that award individuals who start up these sorts of businesses. Thirdly, it looks like an increase in courses of businesses. It looks like different entrepreneurs creating places where information can be accessed and information to start up different businesses can be given to individuals within the society to start up those sorts of businesses. Thirdly, what is the comparative within this debate? 3 things. It looks like no glorification. That means that startup culture isn't seen as something that is big within the society. It could probably exist, but the benefit that is accrued to isn't something that is big. Secondly, it looks like big individuals, rich individuals like Jeff Bezos, not investing money within the Silicon Valley. Not the only reason why rich individuals, rich entrepreneurs have been able to invest money is because of, one, the glorification of these businesses, but also secondly, because the startup culture is seen as something that is good within the society. At a point, we don't have this sort of incentive existing. We don't have the glorification. You then see a world where those sorts of things don't exist. But also that it looks like no courses existing that teach individuals about startup culture. Even exist to some extent. The courses that exist are minimal because it has something small within the society. Two key arguments that are going to exist within my speech today. Firstly, how we are then able to increase the GDP of different countries and why that is good, but also secondly, how we then reduce the state burden and why that becomes something that is good within the society. I'll take a point of information. 3, 2,
Why
1.
do you think you need glorification to achieve all the benefits that you get? Because without glorification, you can still get all the benefits you're talking about.
Okay, that is what I was going to move to. 1, how do we then increase GDP and why is it something that is good? We have to note the thesis here is that this incentivizes entrepreneurship, which increases the GDP. We have to note the nature of glorification, as I told you, is threefold. 1, it looks like individuals seeing it as the most desirable thing within the society. It looks like different people who have money having the incentive due to it being seen as something that is good to invest within these sorts of things. We think that this becomes good and is true because of two specific things. 1, we see more businesses and SMEs growing and entering and being created within the society. We see two things. 1 here, we see startup courses being created so that individuals learn knowledge as to how to work with businesses. But also secondly, in the long run, we see more businesses being put up within the market. We see more individuals trying to venture within this sort of thing. Secondly, we see supply being able to meet the demand within those sorts of economies. Note that supply can only meet demand when we have a lot of companies investing or when you have a lot of companies being created within the society. Notice that on our side of the house, we're able to get that because we have more companies growing up, more small businesses growing up and starting. Thirdly, startups introduce new technologies within the society. They introduce new mechanisms as to how to do things because they are normally owned by individuals who are like youth or individuals who want to start up small things. What is the impact within this debate? Firstly, we reduce the rates of unemployment that exist within the society significantly. Why? Because we have more businesses being started up, we have more individuals creating job opportunities, but also secondly, we're able to increase the GDP within different countries because we have more production. Notice that in most circumstances, startups are businesses, right? They're SMEs that produce goods. When you have a large production of goods, you then have a larger GDP because you're exporting more, you're importing more, you're engaging more within the market, but also thirdly, we have more innovation existing due to this glorification. Notice what is the comparative then? On their side of the house, they're never able to accrue these benefits. Why? Because there is no glorification of startup culture. That simply means that startup culture isn't something that is big within the society. That means that individuals don't want to join it as they want to join it on their side of the house. But also secondly, it means that there is not a large big deal given to startup culture. That means that they're never able to accrue these benefits, but they don't even reduce the rates of unemployment as opposed to how we do it. Secondly, we're able to reduce the state burden. The thesis here is very simple. You give the state the ability to focus on other crucial things like healthcare or like security of the country. This is true because of three specific things. 1, you have to know that in most circumstances, startup culture or the small businesses are funded by large companies that have that incentive because they have like the need to like do things like corporate venture, right? We think that this is able to make these small businesses grow, but also secondly, it then shifts the burden from government to provide resources to these individuals, but also secondly, to provide jobs for these individuals because 1, those jobs are already created by these individuals venturing into this startup culture and trying to create things for themselves, but also secondly, governments are able to accrue taxes because at this point we have these small businesses that have started up, they have started making taxes and they've started paying taxes to governments. The comparative is a world where we don't have individuals engaging within startup culture at that point. That means that we have less taxes, but also secondly, less job creation, which leaves these economies at our state. I rest my case.
Okay, it's audio muted on mute. Give me a second. Let me check who that is. 10 minutes. Okay, thank you very much. Okay, thank you very much for that lovely speech. Leader of opposition, if you're ready.
Guys, my battery is very low, so I'm going to do this very very fast so that my phone doesn't go off. Right. So I'm going to start my speech now. So panel, the debate is not about whether startups should exist or whether innovation exists. Both sides should agree to that. The core question is: should we glorify startup culture? That is, socially celebrate it as the ideal path to success, status, and progress. Because that's the piece information that OG left out. Because to glorify something means that you celebrate it as the ideal path to success and status in itself. What the motion concerns itself with is the cultural and economic consequences of treating startups as heroic, morally superior, and central to the growth narratives, right? Our stance is simple. Glorification produces distorted economics and exploitative work cultures. It substitutes storytelling for substance and obscure structural issues of inequality and sustainability. Three things to say on the pathogenesis of this problem. First, on the cultural narrative gap, we think that societies crave success stories. Startups offer the modern myth of self-made innovation. But then second, on capital concentration, we think that venture capital and media celebrate a few outliers, masking systematic fragility. But then third, on policy capture, we think that government equates entrepreneurship with growth, diverting attention from broader economic inclusion and labor policy. Characterization then is in four folds. First, they celebrate risk-taking, disruption, and founder exceptionalism. But then secondly, there's this prioritization of scaling fast and breaking norms. Move fast and break things as they normally like to call it. But then third, there's this romanticization of burnout, quick clarity, and hustle as virtues. But then lastly, this rewards speculative growth over reproductive sustainability. Five incentives or point of value, but then secondly, workers and the values stability. Five incentives or point of value, but then secondly, workers and the value stability, welfare, and collective bargaining. But also, governments subsidize startups rather than long-term industry. And lastly, society equates worth with entrepreneurial success. I'm going to divide it three things then. First, I'm going to defend economic stability, where we tell you that rewarding long-term value should be prioritized and not hype cycles. Second, on labor dignity, we want to protect workers from exploitative hustle ideologies. And lastly, on distributional justice and how we ensure innovation benefits many and not a few. Let me engage opening governments before I move on. Opening government says that glorification drives innovation and risk taking. Innovation doesn't require glorification, and that's why my PO
Is it just me or the speaker is breaking?
Could someone confirm if he's like audible because he's breaking on my? Okay, it's not just me. Okay. So please, dear Lou, if you're on the call, tell
Can
your
you
partner
pause
that
this
he's
time?
seriously breaking. Yeah, I've paused this time already. Dear Lou, if you're on the call, please tell your partner that he's breaking.
very
I don't think he can still hear me because she's unmuted, but he's not saying anything. Hello, if you can hear me, please just like exit the call and leave. Nana, you're not still audible. Sorry, I cannot hear anything.
So am I audible now?
Yeah.
I was asking, did someone like start a timer to enact the disconnection policy because we have to wait 3 minutes before taking action?
Okay.
I started the
Hello, can you
timer.
hear me?
Okay, yeah, we can hear you now.
Oh my God, where did you lose me?
Could you just like could you just read out the motion so we can be sure it's clear?
This house supports the glorification of startup culture.
Okay, that's fine.
Hello? Yeah, where
Yeah,
did
we
you
can
lose
hear you.
me?
We can hear you. Okay. We lost you at the part where we're talking about how innovation does not require glorification.
Yeah, innovation does not require glorification. It requires infrastructure, education, and stable credit, right? R&D funding. Glorification, what it does is that it substitutes storytelling for structure norms in itself, right? Can you hear me? Hello.
Yeah, we can see hear you. You can proceed. We are hearing you just
Okay.
fine. Please, you're wasting
OG
time.
OG
Just proceed.
says OG
Can you
OG
see my
says that
previous
startups create jobs, but the response is that most fail within 3 years, and there's no net job creation that you get, right? The job that exists are precocious and like they are precarious and not stable in itself, right? First extension then on glorification and how it distorts economic incentives and misallocates capital. This is true on two key respects. First, we think that there's this information asymmetry because one, glorification inflates perceptions of startup success probability. The reality, 9/10 startups will fail. Yet, the cultural hype leads investors and governments to pour disproportionate resources into high risk, low return ventures. But then, secondly, there's this speculative signaling because media glorification shifts focus from innovation to valuation. Startups need to optimize for appearance disruptive, not delivering sustainable products. The mechanism is simple. Venture capital flow into hot sectors driven by this hype like AI, crypto, fintech bubbles in itself, right? Governments then mirror this through startup subsidies, incubator grants, deregulation. What this does is that traditional industries and small businesses which provide stable employment will lose the support. This creates a bubble of economy where value is measured by narrative and not output. Why is this important? One, we think that the glorification redistributes attention, credits, and capital away from the essential sectors like manufacturing, agriculture, and infrastructure, right? Instead of inclusive growth, economies get volatile innovation islands that are disconnected from the real employment or productivity. The impact is simple. How is allocation, speculative booms, and frequent bust, right? For example, the dot-com bubble that crashed in 2000, crypto 2022. In the long term, you get declining industrial capacity, thematic financial risk, and widening inequality as only a few funders capture massive returns in and out of it. Second extension of glorification and how it breeds exploitative and unsustainable work culture. Two things to say. First, on norm internalization. We think that hustle culture that is glorifies that 80-hour week, unpaid labor and burnout as signs of dedication. Like it's something that is very, very problematic and arises from this glorification, right? Why? Because now people are more likely to go into it even when they are exploited, right? Employees and founders feel morally obligated to overwork because of this new perception that society has created for this in and out of it. So, right. Second, there's this moral inversion because failure is reframed as virtue, but the costs like debt, burnout, precarity are borne by ordinary people, not venture capitalism who diversify risk. OG says that it brings out new technology, but understand that you can get all these technologies, you can get all these benefits from these startups by simply allowing them to go at their own pace and not let them like go on to say, oh, we are going to disrupt things and break things and stuff like that, right? We have seen this happen like with Facebook, where at that time where startup culture was not glorified, they were able to build new technologies in and out of itself, right? The mechanism is simple. When we glorify startups, we can see exploitation as passion. This erodes the boundaries between ambition and abuse. Startups lack unions, regulation, and HR protections. This glorification makes those absences appear noble. This means that glorification will normalize unsustainable expectations and psychological harm as the price of success. Why is this important? Because we think that the glorification of unsustainable work norms spills over into the broader economy. Corporates mimic the startup narrative, pushing precarity into mainstream employment. This lowers the quality of life and productivity across all sectors. This is not the world we want to live in, right? The impact is simple. You get a mental health crisis because of the burnout, because people are more likely to engage in these things even when it comes at the cost of their mental health. Why? Because they feel that society is going to put some kind of status with them, right? This in itself is something that is very, very problematic, right? But then also understand that you get that normalization of precarious work, erosion of social protections, and societal exhaustions in and out of itself. Can I still be heard?
Baker,
The
you're
time is
out
up.
of time.
The time is up. The time is
All
up.
right. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Jeez.
Okay, thank you, Elo, for that speech. Deputy Prime Minister, whenever you're ready.
Hi, can you both see and hear me? I really, whoever has network issues, you can tell me and then I'll just turn it off. But like, just let me know. Is that okay?
Hello. Please. Sorry.
Yeah.
Before you,
Yeah,
hello. Before you continue. Hello. Please, panel. In case it gets to DLO and I'm unable to, kindly give me 3 minutes. And if at 3 minutes I'm not back, you can kindly proceed.
okay, yeah, sure.
Yeah, sorry to interrupt
GPM.
you. But that's not gonna work, Nana, because your team disconnection time is 3 minutes and you've already spent 2. So at best we can only give you 1 minute when it's time for your
All right.
DLO speech.
All right, sure.
Thank
Sure.
you. James, whenever you're ready.
Hi. Sorry about that. Can you guys hear me? Hello, Chair.
Yeah, we
Am
can
I
hear
like?
you.
All right. Amazing. If you have a POI, please do unmute. I'm happy to take you. Just don't badger. Like, just please don't badger. But like, I'm happy to take you. I'm going to be looking at the notes that I've typed. So like, just where I look this now. All right. I'm going to look at the notes that I typed. So like, I won't be looking there, but I have a timer and I have a timer and I'll like hear you because my volume is up. All right. Just give me a second. All right, panel. I'll start the speech in 3, 2, 1, go. OG wins this debate on 3 levels. 1, Roima clearly explains to you GDP. GDP is crucial because GDP determines how GDP determines the balance of trade between countries, right? But most importantly, for this specific debate, GDP is important because it helps reduce unemployment rates. But 2, she analyzes to you why you're more likely to go to reduce the state burden. I will just impact a lot of this, but I really want to dive into quick responses to like OO, right? OO says that you are more likely going to burn out. 4 responses here. First, I think this is true, but it's true on both sides of the world, even to some extent. But I want to defend why there are mechanisms ingrained within the glorification that Prima gives as her second piece of setup as to why this is more likely we're going to mitigate it. First, is that Rima explains to you that there's collectivization whenever people are talking about startup cultures, especially with glorification. This is to say, you are often at times glorified to come up with companies with your friends and your family. Note that these are the initial support systems that you get. From 1, the collectivization you do with people. 2, the support that you get from your family. But thirdly, panel, note, people in Silicon Valley like Bill Gates and who are going to give you grants will never give you grants without any way to guarantee that that money gets saved. That is to say, you are more likely going to have courses. This is why, again, if you listen to Rema's speech, she preempted this when she talked about the actors of courses. So, for example, things like internet gurus. And I want to note that even if CEO is going to, even if CEO comes and tries to say like, oh yeah, like internet gurus don't give you all the information, I want to note that the internet is has a plethora of ideas. That is to say, you are much more likely going to get that information from elsewhere. But crucial part and where from that. Notice, Rhyme already explains to you why you centralize data and you centralize information. This is to say it becomes easier for people to create startups. And I want to interrogate why people create startups, but I'll do that in my second part. What is the way up panel on the burnout and hustle culture? It is to say that one, the comparative is bad. In the comparative, you don't even burn yourself out because you don't have the capability to make income. The comparative is, even if you burn yourself out in the short run, you are much more guaranteed to make money because you have financial backing and by virtue of the fact that it's glorification. Second claim from OO is on like labor dignity. I just think this is a lie. Why? SMEs, which is what we define in the mass majority of businesses, which are startup companies, are more likely to employ fewer individuals. This is why the glorification is important. So when I don't know who asked the POI, but like someone asked the POI and I say like why the glorification is important? Like this is why the glorification is important. Glorification means you get numbers because Rhymer analyzes to you why you get media and all these things. I don't want to be repetitive. But most importantly, because we're looking at SMEs and their startups, they are much more easier to regulate because penalties are difficult on them. This is why you can always regulate them using penalties. Panel, I deal with this whole entire labor thing. Third, wealth redistribution. I would like to note that the most people who create startups are minority individuals. Why? They usually lack alternatives and they lack like generational wealth. So they are more incentivized to be much more creative to find ways to take themselves out of poverty. Comparatively speaking, our side caters for them because you are much more able to take care of those people. So if OO's issue is wealth distribution, we get the best wealth distribution on our side because minorities are the ones who increase they have the highest amount of productivity because of the pressure on them to benefit their families. Third, that we create this like narrative that like I really don't know. Like he says that we create this narrative. Let me see what I wrote. We create this narrative. Like I just don't think this is true. Because he said that the narrative is about glorifying these specific things. I want to note, Pano, here that this thing, like this is just a lie. The narrative here is good. The narrative is what he says the second time, where he says that the narrative that like you fail to make people as good, or like we start to make failure look good. Pano, I think this is a good thing. Not because on both sides of the world you have entrepreneurs. Where we have glorification, which changes the narrative of failure to say that you can start again. The problem is when you don't have that glorification of the narrative that failure you can bounce back from failure, it is unlikely for you. And this is the bad thing, Pano, because people invest a huge amount of resources. And the fact that people reject a huge amount of resources recognize that you have to give them a specific way to get better. I want to note that this actually helps them in terms of financing. What's the comparative and why do we beat OO? I think one, they don't engage GDP, they don't engage why you benefit this specific world. And I want to be very clear here and I want to like move on to why Rhymer wins that debate. On GDP, Rhymer wins this debate because unemployment is crucial. Because even if every SME employs 10 people, but if you have 1,000 SMEs, those are jobs. This is numbers. This is basic logic. But two, why are we looking to reduce state burden? And this is why I want to be very, very clear. State burden is important because states on their side are overburdened by trying to uplift people. The comparative about glorifying startup culture is that people are able to create their own financing and create their own jobs because they're much more able to exercise their ideologies and their ideas. This is crucial because it ensures specialization by the state when it comes to it ensures specialization by the state when it comes to putting out resources. This is good because one, states can now prioritize development in specific areas, which creates linkages. This looks like China when they invested much more in their property industry. This looks like China when they concentrated much more on manufacturing. Specialization is the way to go, and we give that specialization on site opening gov. But before that, any POI from any op team, especially from CO. 3, 2, 1, go. Yeah. Ask.
Okay. You talk of how startups typically just improve the GDP. Is this something that is just exclusive to glorification, and is this something that only startups are able to, like, glorification of startups is only likely to achieve?
Yes, only the glorification. Why? On your world, when you have startups, you have fewer startups because you don't have the capability to get financing for them because of what Rhymer tells you in her speech. Rhymer already addresses this. The comparative is that glorification increases your access to financing because you have more people financing you. I want to extend on why you're much more likely to engage the young generation. I want to note, startup culture is much more likely to happen in the young generation because they're going to be the future of the generation. Two mechanisms as why this is true. One, young people have more productive energy. But two, there's been a shift in society where young people now and the Gen Z people have to take us out of poverty. So things like black tax. I want to note that this is much better on our side because you get more engagement of young people within economics. This is true because one, the startups that you provide, the people who go to Shark Tank are literally young people. I want to note that inclusion of young people within economics is a prerequisite because it enables political engagement. Why? Politics is important and young people are being disidentified from politics. At the point at which we engage them in economic factors where they're able to make money, they have more incentive to engage in the political economy. Why? The current political economy engages a lot of money, a lot of finance ideas, and this is where we get them. Comparatively on the way up, we are much better than every other team in this debate. Why? We help young people who are one of the most vulnerable people who want to actively grow. But two, we benefit states, but thirdly, we benefit the state by reducing the burden. Not on our side, glorification is crucial. I'm done.
Time up. Okay, thank you for that speech. Let's see the opposition. I think he said we should give him like 1 minute. So if he's not back in 5:38, we have to just go on without. I mean, that's cool by you.
That's fine.
Okay.